If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to Why Write. Welcome to Why Write. I'm your host, Angela Grout. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode where we learn why writers are writing and why you should be writing your story too. On today's episode, I have a Western Mass native, S.M. Wells, on the show. And S.M. Wells has just written her first memoir called Feel. And she is not only a writer and a first-time author, but she is an artist and she is a teacher. She owns Shan's Paints, and she is known throughout the area as a wonderfully expressive and vibrant painter using oil paints to do live wedding portraits and so much more. She also hosts paint and sips, and she has we're going to talk about it on the show, like why art, not only on the page, but art in painting is such a healing process. So I want to welcome to the show S.M. Wells.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show. And congratulations on this book and the
Thank you.
success that you're having with it. And I am just so fascinated by you because, you went to college at Massar in Boston to study, art and to study interrelated media. And now you are actually applying it not only with your art, but also with writing. And how did that come to be? How did you merge these worlds?
I definitely learned in the major for studio for interrelated media. It's kind of like an open major, but it's a different way that you can look at art. So art is community, art is connection, and it could be video, a sound, a painting, a book. So I definitely took the tools that I learned from college to apply to, okay, I don't need to just have art on paper or a canvas. Like there are different ways I can share my art with others.
Yeah, and when an artist shares their art, whether it's in a painting or on the stage in a dance or a performance or in a book, I find that it's such a beautiful way for them to express themselves, but also to help other people because it empowers audiences to tap into a part of themselves that either they are looking to tap into or didn't know they needed to tap into.
Yes, it's definitely, I think, for art, for painting as a practice and writing as a practice, it's healing in many forms. So, beginning writing this book, it's small steps at a time, just like a painting. Like I would take a little bit of time a day to start writing, and you build on top of that. And a lot of people I talk to, they say, like, oh, well, I could never do that. I could never draw that. It's time and practice and patience, really.
Yeah, and it's so true because I do see like as a painter, you know, people see you start a project and it can take days, weeks, months because you build upon it. And the same thing with writing a book. When you
Yes.
started this memoir, I have lots of questions, but I have two
Yes.
main questions. When you started this memoir, number one, were you starting it knowing that you were going to publish it? And two, what prompted it to continue to start to become a book and not just your journal?
Um, At the very beginning, I decided in my mind that I was going to write a book and publish a book. I wanted it to be a self-help book, but I also knew that I needed to get to a point of healing myself to be able to help others. So I didn't have a necessary timeline for how long it was going to take, but I did have the goal in mind when I began writing. And
When did you start the book?
I started writing in December 2022.
And here we are in November of 2025. So I want to put the timestamp on it just so that who are writing know that, it doesn't have to be done overnight. Like things take time.
Yeah, it actually took about 2 years to complete the writing, but I did take breaks in between. So, as you said earlier with journaling, it did become like a therapeutic process. So, I would take a little time in between writing. So, it really depends on who you are as a writer, and you don't have to write everything like all at once. Like you get you can form ideas and take space between it.
So how did you come up with your title, Feel?
I honestly tried to get like the concept of my book. I wanted to simplify it because in order to connect with a bunch of other people, I want it to be kind of like a universal feeling, right? Like the main theme of my book is being able to like find yourself again and feel like and to heal the parts of you that you didn't necessarily know that were hurting through whether it's generational trauma or other things. So I had a couple different book ideas, but feel kind of stuck with me, and I felt like it would be intriguing enough for someone to pick up on the shelf and be like, "What's feel?"
No, and I love that because you have a subtitle on it that says, I am not a victim, I am a survivor.
Yes.
And when you're talking about, you know, feeling things, like you feel like you're a victim, you feel like, the traumas you've gone through and identifying them that that's not who you are, it's what you've been through is a
Yes.
really big lesson that I think anyone who can journalize and who can go through some sort of healing mechanism, whether it's through writing or through art,
Yes.
is very important to do. And obviously you feel that's important because I know you have a deep passion to help other people to heal with art.
Yes, I do. Even when connecting with people with weddings and like making portraits for people, I try to reach others and bring some, fulfillment with art and show like art can be fun. Um, Definitely.
And that is very cool. I've seen it like on, I want to say TikToks or something where you have your live wedding artist, painting the portrait while the event is going on, which is just such a cool way to capture a moment. And, back in the, I'm going to say 17, 1800s when we didn't have cameras, this is what
Yeah.
people did. So it's nice to see those things kind of coming back to nowadays so that it just makes people feel, I love this,
Yeah.
feel, the moment, feel the moment. It's not just, a passing portrait. Um,
Yeah.
so for writers who are out there who are looking to like figure out how to write their book, whether it be a memoir or not. I mean, when it's a memoir, it's very personal and it's a tough story to share, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But like
Yeah.
you have, your cover, the cover design. Can you talk a little bit about like how you got the artwork for it and how you were able to figure out how to actually publish this book?
Yeah, so I had a friend who is a photographer, and I did a photo shoot on Women's Day. I think it was like a year and a half ago, and National Women's Day, and I was taking pictures in the studio with flowers and a whole bunch of bouquet of flowers, and it was really fun, and it felt like very empowering because I just hadn't had a photo shoot like that before, and I feel like it really stuck with me. And that's kind of where I got the concept for my book. I'm like, wow, that day felt so great. Like it felt like I was really catering to myself and my needs and like feeling super empowered as a woman. So that's kind of where the photo came from on the book cover. I did design the book cover through Photoshop, through many, many hours of design. So it took a long time to perfect it because I am definitely a perfectionist.
Yeah. So you write the book and you type it up and you get it all edited, and of course we've gone through this with many authors. You actually know what you want it to look like. Who did you publish through?
I published through KDP, through Amazon.
Yeah, so
So
so you self-published it. Did you upload it yourself? And I think my biggest question is when I did my children's book, which isn't on the table here, but when I did my children's book and I had to upload the photos, the pixels were like, oh, it just made me so mad because they were just so
yeah.
muted and not clear. How did you get yours to be clear? I mean, I ended up going through a publisher to have it done because I just couldn't figure out how to upload that. But how were you able to go through KDP to get your pixels so perfect so that your cover is nice and clear and crisp and your book is?
Well, after many, many attempts of trying and not getting the pixels right, I decided to go through Fiverr.com. It's a really great source for people looking for
What's it
free.
called?
Fiverr, Fiverr
Okay.
.com.
Yep. Okay.
I I hired someone to help me format the book, and it was much less costly than like traditional publishing if you're looking for budget friendly. And he definitely helped me format everything just right and getting all the pictures like, high definition for
Uh,
publishing. Because it,
so you were able to turn over the whole file to him and he formatted it all with the people at Fiverr?
yes, yes, through many different, like back and forth, just making sure like everything was looking the right way. Um, Very professional and very helpful.
That's very helpful, and I think for the writers out there who are trying to figure out, how to get over the final threshold, even though we know it's
Yeah.
not the final threshold, but like to
Yes.
get the published book out there, to know that there's help out there when you're not doing the traditional publishing, and that's not super expensive. That's okay. We get over the threshold, we get the book published, we get it on Amazon, and now, of course, we have the whole other beautiful side of marketing.
Oh, yes.
And how have you what have you done for marketing your book that you feel has, really helped you, and maybe even like something that you feel like didn't go as well as you thought?
I think for marketing, it is definitely like a trial because it's my first experience going into any of this. But I knew, okay, if I can get this book published, if I can get it out, like holding it in your hand, like seeing it in print in
Yeah,
physical form is such a great feeling that you naturally want to get it out. You want people to see it and read it. So I went around the town of like West Hartford. I printed out flyers. I decided I'm going to make a book tour for myself for fall and get my book and pitch it to places. So I pitched it to a local bookshop and they actually didn't accept me at first. So my very first try it felt like it was a miss, but I didn't let that discourage me. I just
good.
kept asking. I'm like, okay, if they're not going to accept me, another one will. And
Yep,
eventually it led me to Barnes and Noble. I just walked in and I talked to the store owner and she was intrigued and that's how I got the first, the ball rolling with Feel.
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, and it is a matter of being your own advocate
Yes.
and putting yourself out there, which can be very hard because a lot of writers are introverted, so they don't want to take that step. I know for myself, when I started years ago, I mean, I owned a flower shop, so when you're saying you had this
Yeah.
photo shoot with flowers, I'm like, yay, because flowers definitely make you feel. Flowers definitely have a language of their own. And I would do floral events, whether I was designing or usually showing people how to design, but have my books there and be able to talk about the books, and like being able to incorporate both of my worlds into the audience that is in front of me. And you definitely have that same opportunity with a studio you just opened, in, I believe it's in West Hartford, am I saying this right, where you're doing paint and
Um,
sips?
yeah, so it's called Sip and Champagnes. I just launched in November. My studio is actually in Broadbrook, Connecticut, so it's like a
Broadbrook.
little in the between Connecticut and Mass. It's
Yeah,
right near a farm area. Every Friday at 7, I host a paint and sip, and I get to choose all these different paintings, and it's a coffee and tea bar, so it's really fun.
that's awesome. And it's a great place for you to have an outlet of, being able to display your work as an artist and as a writer. So,
Oh,
to have
yes.
people come in to do that, I think that's wonderful. And like we said in the beginning, you have this, passion to help people to heal through art. So obviously hosting these, what do you call it? Sip and champagne?
Sip and champagnes, yeah.
Yeah. It is an opportunity to do that. Um,
Mhm.
when you're, so I want to go back to the writing of the book and writing of the memoir. Like, how vulnerable did you feel letting people read what you wrote?
Uh, Extremely vulnerable, but I knew from the very beginning, like as soon as I started writing it, that there were a lot of like deep topics and trigger warnings and sensitive things that I knew eventually was going to be in the public. So I've mentally prepared myself for the release since I started writing it.
Oh, okay. Well, how did you mentally prepare? That's a big one. That's a huge thing because
Um,
it is when you're writing, whether you're writing fiction or you're writing nonfiction. I mean, it
yeah.
is something that you have to mentally prepare for because people are going to start to know a little bit more about you, and it's definitely being vulnerable, but there's that whole anxiety of the judgment. Like what are people really thinking?
I think that's definitely the process of CBT therapy, which what I cover in my book, helped my mindset towards that because you learn in therapy like you can't control how other people react and think. You can only control yourself. So I had to go, it took me time to learn this concept, but the fear, it didn't it didn't just go away overnight. Like there were definitely fluctuations of me worrying about how are people going to respond? People going to be upset? And I did have a couple people reach out to me that were wondering about certain things, but I knew that I had to be open and true in my story, to be able to advocate for myself. And no matter what someone threw at me or like asked me about, that I would be able to talk about it.
Yeah, that's beautiful and brave. And I'm just so impressed by your work. And I know the people who read your book are definitely going to not only be impressed by you, but it's going to impress upon themselves to be empowered with how they feel about certain things and how they journey through their own, trials, tribulations, and traumas,
Yeah.
in order to heal themselves and to move forward knowing that they're not a victim of what they've gone through, they're a survivor of what they've gone through.
Right. And that was very important for me, like adding on to earlier how you mentioned that, to say I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. All of the things that I've been through, although no matter how deep and like how hard it is to kind of read and write through and vulnerable, the purpose is to open that conversation. And I'm trying to hopefully help people that are younger and maybe going through it and don't know how to manage, or if they're in a toxic relationship and they're not really sure how to get out of it. I knew that the vulnerability, it would be worth me sharing to help someone else. So it didn't really matter at the end of the day how I felt about how other people were perceiving it, as long as I could help somebody and maybe help their healing journey and not have to, hurt through it or feel like a victim.
I think through all this you're going to end up becoming a therapist too. I mean, what you do is therapy, but it's definitely a gift that you have done for yourself and for others by publishing this book. What do you think's next? Do you think you're going to do more? Did you get the writing bug to be like, I think I have to write more?
I have thought about it. I maybe in the future, I thought about writing an art technique book or something on oil painting, because oil painting is definitely my passion. So I would love to maybe do a technical art book or something like that in the future. Maybe not as in depth because I do feel like Theo covered a lot of things that I wanted to already speak on. So
Kind of a little bit of an autobiography in a way.
yeah, yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Nice. I love that. Well, I really appreciate you joining us today. And I want people to not only go buy your book, everybody go buy your book, and she's going to tell us where we can do
I
that,
have
but
it right
also to
here.
see your artwork. So, can you tell us where they can get your book, where they can get more information about you, about your art studio, and see and even purchase your art too?
Yeah, so my book is available on barnesandnoble.com. You can also find it on Amazon. You can find it in store. It's in the biography aisle at Barnes& and Noble Enfield, the local author and psychology aisle at Barnes& and Noble West Hartford,
Ah,
and there are limited signed editions in the local author and memoir aisle in Barnes& and Noble Holyoke. If you want to do a sip and champagnes with me, you could find me via Facebook, champagnes, or Instagram. I also have a champagnes page. So I have many different platforms for art in the book.
I love that champagnes. And I love that you told them where to find the book in the aisles because, of course, we're talking about it being a memoir, but how they're placing it in the bookstores, where it is, which is great. I mean, obviously they can go into any local Barnes and Noble and give them your name and the book and they'll tell them. But it is interesting how we pick our genres and then how bookstores label our genres too.
Yeah, it was great because the first bookstore I was at in West Hartford, they put it in the psychology and the local author aisle. So it was really incredible to see it in both because, there are so many different themes. It's like it's
Yeah.
biography, it's memoir, it's psychology, and
Yeah.
it's exactly the type of audience I would like to reach who are looking for different types of topics.
Yeah.
So,
And it's very important for authors to know that, when you start writing, you don't have to think, oh, it's just a memoir, like
right.
let it evolve
Mhm.
into how it's going to evolve. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Why Write. And I'm very excited to meet you in person because we've only talked
Yeah.
via email and text and, all these things with all these modern technologies, but thank God for them so that we can
Oh,
connect.
yeah. Mhm.
And, kudos to you. And you definitely bring out some good feelings. You have good
Thank you.
energy and I'm excited for people to read your book, like I said. So thank you so much. And I will put the links to all of your sites and your books on this podcast. So thank you
Perfect.
so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're very
Yes.
welcome. And I want to thank you, the listening audience, and Studio 954 for allowing this show to come to you, whether you are streaming it on YouTube, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, wherever that is, or if you're watching it on your local cable access channel. Thank you. I thank you very much for listening in. Maybe you're on Valley iRadio and you are listening every weekend. We appreciate that because, there are authors out there with some really great stories that we hope that you're going to listen and purchase their stories, and it's going to move you too, and hopefully it'll even move you to start sharing your story, because that's why I'm doing Why Write, to find out why people are writing, because that empowered me to start writing. So I said, why are you writing? Why am I writing? Let's share why we write. And at this point of the program is when I am going to get you to write. So I'm going to give you a little writing prompt. When the show is over, set your timer for 5 minutes. And today we are going to use the prompt of feel. And we're going to use that prompt of feel into trying to use some modality that we have within us that we know we can help somebody else with. So I want you to sit down and write down the words, I feel, and then I want you to use some adjective. I feel this way when I think about this event. So you have two fill in the blanks. One is an event that has happened in your life. Maybe it's your wedding, maybe it's the birth of a child, maybe it's the death of your parent. And talk about how you feel in when you think about that event, and just write about it for about 5 minutes, because that's a little memoir writing that's going to get you to start writing about how you feel and trying to get you to heal, probably through an event that you have had in your life that you have survived, because we are survivors. So thank you so much for tuning in to Why Write. My name is Angela Grout. Thank you, and I will see you next time. Bye.